She who thrives. Phoenix rising. The true me. The ups and downs crazy in life. So take this journey with me. She who thrives. Yeah. Good morning, sunshines, and hello, everyone. Welcome to She Who Thrives, a podcast about embracing the grind of life while learning to shine through it. I am your host, Janell. And before we begin, I want to ask you to please subscribe, share, follow, rate, and review. Especially review. I'm really reading the reviews. I really appreciate your love and support for all those who have been tuning in on listening on podcasts and watching me on YouTube. And I now want to say welcome to Deliza Abraham. Yay!
That is me.
Before we start everything,
Yeah.
she is now my new business development manager.
Yay!
So we kept it a secret. We haven't said it to many people. We have a lot of mutual people in common, and we have kept it completely secret. And it's part of the rebranding.
Yes.
From JBP Accounting, which is the business that I own, to CFO, and she's on part of the team for CFO.
Yes.
So she has been really
front and center
with all of that. Like, she's been taking it, running with it, and doing what she has to do with it. And I'm just saying yes, no, yay, no, yay, nay, whatever.
Yep, everything. I'm like, Janell, give me all your money because I need to do this, I need to do that. I need a card, I need keys, I need everything.
I'm about to go broke. No, like, Lord Jesus, you did not hear that. Knock on wood, I am not going broke.
No.
I am not putting that in the universe. We're gonna make a lot of money.
Yes.
So guys, I am really hungry, so I haven't ate breakfast. I am going to be munching on snacks and drinking my coffee and water, so I might start getting jittery in a minute, so forgive me.
All you ASMR folks, put your headphones on because she's going to be chewing. It looks like a little trail mixing over there,
so it's,
put your headphones
nuts.
on. And I can kind of help you through here. We can start the ASMR like this. Trust me, it works.
So I wanted, before we started, we were talking about how we want to introduce ourselves.
Oh my gosh.
So Deliza, like myself, have gone through a divorce.
Yes.
I don't know much about your divorce, if it was good, bad, whatever, but you do have a little baby girl from that.
I do.
So it's hard when women go through a process of divorce and we have taken on our ex-spouse's last name.
Yes.
Then once we get divorced, what do we do?
Right.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Like, we're looking at this like, I had my previous last name. My previous last name is Pena. And a lot of people in my industry know me as Janell Pena.
Right.
Janell Pena. And the discussion that I had with my ex years ago was if we ever divorced, which I don't know why we put that in the universe, but we did.
Right.
And if I would ever let go of the last name. And I said no, because he was in my life a lot longer than my dad was.
Right.
So in total for 17 years prior to us saying, we're parting our ways and stuff. So I didn't think about letting go of the last name for a very long time.
Yeah.
So now, I'm already...
That's okay.
So now with rebranding and everything, I've gone from Pena to Borrero, back to my maiden name. Legally not yet, but I'm, everything else is, Borrero is where I'm at. So you also had the same issue with, you're legally still Abraham.
Yeah. So just a quick little backstory. I was with my ex-husband, married for 8 years, together for 10 years. And out of that 10 years, we traveled the world. He still is a part of the Air Force. And we have a beautiful 5-year-old daughter named Zamia, and she is if I get into that, it's going to be all about kids. So I'm not going to go down that road because there is so much goodness that I want to just edify today. But yes, I was married for 10 years. So out of that, we were together for 10 years. So out of those 10 years, everything that was legal had Abraham. And I was so in love with him that when I saw him old, right? Like I saw us old. So there was never a time in my life where I thought that I would have to unlove him. And I say that to say I was so proud to be like an Abraham, right? So his father, Ken, oh my gosh, God bless him. He was so amazing. He did pass away. But before he passed away, he would always tell me, you're an Abraham. And this is before him and I even got married. And so I took that and I was like, yeah, you're right, right? And so I identified with Abraham for a very long time. And I did things, very important things in my life that had Abraham on there. And we recently got divorced in January of this year, but the divorce was going on for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Because I had originally filed for divorce when he was not in the United States. And so there's just different legal jurisdictions that you have to follow. So I wasn't sure, like, what do I do? Am I still Deliza Abraham? Am I Deliza Padilla, right? Because that's my maiden name, but then I really don't have like a connection with my dad. So do I want to identify myself as a Padilla?
Yeah.
You know, and like I'm kind of in that middle ground where I don't know. So I'm just identifying with Delia, which is my middle name. Because I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey to identify myself for the woman that God wants me to be. And there is one Padilla in my family, which is my aunt, Shayla Padilla, that, you know, stepped in place of my father. So I am very proud to be her niece. And so I don't know, maybe I will go back to Padilla. Maybe I'll get married one day. You know?
With me, I don't have connection to Borrero side anyways, because the Borreros didn't even raise my dad. My grandmother passed away shortly after my dad was born. So he was raised with my grandmother's side of the family. So his maternal side of the family, which are Sotomayor.
Oh, wow.
But they've cut it down to Soto.
Yeah.
So there's no connection. He didn't even have connection to Borrero. Although if you go to Ponce in Puerto Rico, Borreros are usually all family and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, like, do I go back to being Borrero? And, you know, on everything that I'm doing, it's Borrero. But legally, it's hard because I have my business. Everything is under Peña. Especially, I deal with the IRS, guys. IRS is very hard to change things with. And if I'm going to change stuff, especially during tax season, but it's hard. So if I start the process now, who knows if I'm going to have my things taken care of before tax season. And tax season is big for me. So I can't sit there and be like, I'm going to go ahead and change this.
Right now.
Yes. Because it's not going to be that simple. So I'm like, all right, let me just leave it legally Peña. And then I'll just use Borrero for everything else. Why not?
Yeah.
Stars do it, like the famous people do it. So I'm going to walk around being Janell Borrero.
Right. I think for us, it's more an emotional attachment because we have an emotional attachment to something that at one point in our lives we've identified with.
Yeah.
So my ex-husband is married now to his beautiful wife. I absolutely adore her. I have nothing but just good things to say about her. And I'm just so thankful that he married her because she deserved the man that he became.
You molded him to be the man that he is right
and
now.
He was like this Build-A-Bear. I feel like a lot of men are Build-A-Bears, right? Because they come with childhood trauma. They come with all these things, and then all of a sudden you're like, skirt, you're not gonna talk to me like that. Skirt, you're not gonna cheat on me. You're not gonna do this. You're not gonna do that. And they're like, but wait a minute. There hasn't been a woman in my life to challenge me that way.
Yeah.
But back to her, she's Abraham now. And I want to like if this was a torch, I just want to be like, ma'am,
pass that down. Yeah.
There you go. You know what I mean? And I'm ready to to just not be that anymore. When I go to doctor's appointments, they're Deliza Abraham, or, when I go take my daughter to the doctor, oh, is your husband here? I'm like, cringe, right?
So you're in a new relationship now.
I am in a new relationship.
After your divorce. So how does he feel that you're still Abraham?
Okay, since you brought it up. Honestly, not it. I mean, there's been levels to it because him and I have been together for now 4 years, but we've known each other since we were like 15 years old.
Yeah.
So it's so bizarre. Like our story is so bizarre because he literally saw me become engaged, right? A wife, a mom through social media. And I saw him in a sense like married to the streets, right? Because he didn't have like this long-term public relationship where I saw that. So we lived our lives separately only to just one day come back together.
They say if it's meant to be, it's going to come back.
I mean, that's what they say, right? That's what they say. So he was uncomfortable with it in the beginning. He was very uncomfortable with it in the beginning. But I think that along the way, he understood why I was still Abraham. There was still things legally that I needed to fix before I went back to my maiden name. My daughter's fully in my custody because my ex-husband does live in another state. So there was a lot of legalities behind me getting back to my maiden name. And I don't think he understood that standpoint. Being in the military, and I'm sure if there's any military wives or anyone associated with the military, you can identify with this because if you're not their wife or if you're not their husband, you have like no importance. So there was things I needed to get on paper because legally I still have the right for certain things. Yeah. So I just feel like he didn't understand that point. I think for him it was more emotional, like you're my girl, right? Like you're with me. I've adopted this little girl into my life as if she's my own. She is my own. I have to already have her last name be Abraham. Why do I need to still share a piece of you with him? And I completely understood where he was coming from. But fast forward till now, we are a beautiful blended family. But that again was a journey.
Because you guys get along now, right? Yeah,
we've always got along. I think it was more in the sense of like the man, like macho thing. You know what I'm saying? Like for me,
I feel that.
Like I knew who my ex was and I knew who Will was. I'm gonna say his name because that's my baby. I love him. But I knew who he was and I knew who my ex was. So completely different beings. But I just knew that Will looked at me. He was like, she's mine and I'm going to protect her because you hurt her. Yeah. And I'm dealing with pain and I'm dealing with things that you've caused her. And now that's, coming into fruition into this relationship. So I feel some kind of way towards you, ex-husband, right? Because now I'm not trusting Will to go hang out with his friends because I'm emotionally damaged.
So you saying that, did you not heal from that previous relationship before you went into it with Will?
Listen, I thought I was until Will brought the truth out of me. He was like, sweetheart, you're not healed. And I was like, no, I am. I'm completely over it. I know I am. And he was like, no, you're not. Because you bring things up and you're still so hurt by it. You cry about it all the time. We get into arguments over it because I'm like, oh, you just don't understand. And, it's sometimes not meant for him to understand because as women, oh my gosh, our hormones, we barely understand ourselves, right? So I feel like it's just, it came to a point in my life where I was like, if I continue to live in unforgiveness, I'm hurting myself. And he has...
But it's also, you're hurting yourself, but it's not fair to him.
It's not. And I came with baggage. I came with emotional baggage. I came with childhood trauma that I didn't even know existed. And that's why I absolutely adore being with the kind of man that Will is because he's very strong-minded and he's very blunt when he speaks and so blunt sometimes that it hurts it hurts because he doesn't speak with someone else's emotions in mind. He's just going to tell you how it is, and then he's going to apologize for it later.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to that. I am like so delicate with words, right? Like I'm a writer. So when I write, I look at these words and they become life for me. So when someone is talking to me in some kind of way, I'm like, ooh, that kind of hurt. Yeah. I'm gonna stay back from you. But this is my partner. So I can't do that. I have to, be face to face with that and learn to love another man differently. So we all get along.
That's good. I asked you about how did Will feel? Because in my relationship, my boyfriend, he tend to feel some type of way about it. I laugh at it.
Yeah.
He gets mad because I be laughing. Sometimes I tell him it's kind of a nervous laugh, but sometimes it's just like really laugh.
Right.
He felt some type of way, especially that's a different man. And I had to tell him, he never did anything to you. And my ex is a good person. Yeah. As a man, he's a good person, a good individual. Yeah. It just so happened our relationship didn't work, and we lived 17 years of our life together around each other. That, of course, things were gonna happen. Yeah. And they happened to me, not to you. He never did anything to you. For you to be upset that I still carry Pena.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't hate him for anything that happened. I really don't. But he did feel some type of way. And for a long time, I had his name here in Arabic. And I covered it. But my boyfriend was feeling some type of way of having this name on me.
Yeah.
And I told him, eventually I was going to cover it, but I have to cover it on my own time.
Yes.
Not when anybody else wants me to.
Absolutely.
Like, I needed to. Yeah. But I had to sit there and think, like, my ex moved on. And not to get into that story because that's a completely different story, but how am I going to walk around with this name on me when he's in a completely different relationship? You know? And it had nothing to do with my boyfriend saying certain things. I mean, he probably brought it to my attention. Yeah. And it was like, that's when I started to really think about it because I would forget that I even had it. I had it on me for like 6 years.
Right.
Like, we were already together, married, whatever, before I even tatted myself with his name.
Right.
And I love his middle name. And that's why I did it in Arabic. And I probably would have left it on because I always forgot that I had it here. Right. Like, I literally would forget. So I had to start thinking about that. And then I decided to cover it. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm over here sticking my tongue behind my teeth trying to take these nuts out. But I had to cover it. And I was like, it took me time to think about what I wanted to do because I didn't want to do it in a spiteful way. Right. And me covering it was for myself. And that's why I have, you can see it this way, is the book.
Oh, I love it.
The book with the flowers coming out with like if it's growth from it. Yeah. So I wanted to have meaning because his name has meaning. So you can still see somewhat where his name was at, which is used as the branch. Yeah. And it took me a while for me to do that. And I thought I was going to be more emotional when I did that. And I wasn't. I was okay with it. Yeah. Like, this was a part of my chapter. Ready for it. I was ready for it. Yeah. It was part of my chapter in my book. And it was like, I already had wrote the book, put it out there. I had backlash from it, but I was just completely growing from it as well. Yeah. So, talking about books. Yeah.
Right, since we're going there.
Yeah. You know, I talk about my book, Loving a Bipolar Bear. And
great book, by the way. Please
Did you read it?
I sure did. I sure did. I actually, so it's funny that you asked because I actually just finished it.
Did you really?
Nice. I'm like, well, I'm going to be like, so close to this woman. I should probably read her book so we can talk about those deep things. But I love how vulnerable you got in your book. And I think it's so important as women to be vulnerable because it gives women the opportunity to be like, wow, this is something that I never wanted to speak about. Some women feel ashamed by it, right? Because some women, they've stood in these relationships for a long time knowing that they weren't being poured into, or just whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That book, it truly is a staple. I'm sure not just for you and in your growth, but for the women that read it. You know, you've had women on this podcast who've read your book from, you know, front to back, and they're literally highlighting pieces of their life in it because it truly is that kind of book. And I think from the title, you kind of have this perception of what it's going to be until you actually read it. You're like, whoa, it's something deeper than just that. So read the book.
Read the book.
Yes, read the book.
But bringing up my book was because when I wrote it, I knew people were going to read it and it was going to hurt people's feelings. It was going to bring out certain feelings from other people.
Yeah.
It was very hard for me because I was afraid, because I was always protecting everybody else's image.
Right.
And putting my own emotions on the back burner. So I struggled a lot with writing this book. It took me a while for me to sit down and just really write it because I was afraid. And I tell people, it's not like the best, I don't know how to say the English or whatever. I just let it pour out.
It doesn't have to be. That is a part of your identity.
Yeah. So I told them, you don't know how many times I sat there and cried and typed through me crying my ass off.
Yes.
In Starbucks or at a hotel. Writing each chapter.
Yeah.
And I had to keep on telling myself, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. I ran from writing this book for a long time.
Yeah.
And because of the fear of what people were going to say. And this is the reason why we're bringing this up now, because Deliza, she has a book that she has on paper, but she doesn't want to share.
Yes, it is.
So we want to see if we can get her to share it.
Yeah.
So I know you said, celebrate the change.
Yeah.
I love the title.
Thank you.
And I know you wrote the book, and I know you were writing a blog.
Yeah.
And you have not put either or out there.
So I actually had the blog out there, and I took it down because I wasn't nurturing it anymore. I wasn't adding content anymore. After I filed for divorce, it was very difficult for me to be in that space because a lot of what was on there, my birth story was on there, how I gave birth to my daughter. So it was very intimate. There was pictures of my ex-husband on there. And I struggled, like, do I leave that on there? It's a part of my life. Do I now flip the script and say, hey, that guy that you read about, like, and how beautiful this was? Well, he's not here no more. No, so I didn't know how to go about it. So I was just like, we're going to take it down.
You shouldn't.
I know.
You shouldn't. Everything that happened with your ex-husband should still be in there.
Yeah.
It's a part of your story, but also your daughter's going to want to see those memories.
I know. And, it's deleted from the world, but I still have it. I still have, like, everything. All I would need to do is just put it for the public to see. But
so that's the blog.
That is the blog. Yeah.
I tried the blog thing.
Yeah.
I really did, especially when I was going through the whole divorce thing, that I was really trying to do a lot of things for the first time, and I wanted to share it and all of the stuff or whatever. But going through the book and trying to do the blog, it was a lot of work.
It is.
And
it is a lot of work.
Step back from it, and I haven't really done much on the blog, which I think I need to start.
I can help you with that because I love to write, girl. I love to write. I do.
So, but yeah, back to the book. It's I know you expressed that you're afraid of what's gonna open.
Yes.
Yes. And honestly, like, if I was going to let fear hold me back from anything, I would not be successful in anything at all.
Yeah.
Because being an entrepreneur, that's a
That's what it
shitload of
is.
fear.
That's what it is. Right. You're
It's a
stepping out
shitload
on
of
fear.
fear. You're stepping out. You're stepping out to be vulnerable for other people to criticize your work, criticize you, everything. And then now having a book where I'm gonna read this to you.
Yeah.
So that way you can see, like, we go through this,
Mm-hmm.
and it affected me. Let's see where it's at. So that way you can see what you're going to put yourself out there for. But I want you to be prepared because it's good to know these things.
Yeah.
But then also listening to everybody else that has the opposite opinion of what this person wrote. So this was a review about my book. And it says, awful, don't waste your money. This book is unreadable, awful grammar, sentence structure, poor plot, unedited, etc. Books like these make self-published authors look bad. The premise sounded promising, but this had to be the most poorly written book that I've ever read. Did not finish after an hour. Not worth a penny. Can't believe an actual adult wrote this garbage. I struggle with the bipolar disorder myself, and this book was just embarrassing in every possible way. I wanted a good read that I could relate to, and this book was just not it. I don't even want to try looking for another book about bipolar anymore if it's written by authors like this one. Don't waste your time. Waste your money. So when I didn't see it right when they wrote that. Like, I think it was probably like months later because I didn't want anyone to kind of like throw me off in what I was doing. But it hurt when I seen that. And it's like, but you know what? That person has bipolar disorder. So they're seeing it from the other side. Exactly. So they're not seeing it from the side that I wrote it from. So
because the title is Loving a Bipolar Bear. I am loving someone with this condition. So it's everything that you went through, not what this condition is for that person. But this is what I went through, and it's difficult. It's difficult loving someone who A, B, and C.
The grammar, I was like, I wrote how I speak. Right. So screw you.
Right.
My whole point of putting it out there, one is like, I put things out there when they're negative because I want to be like, you didn't win. I don't. Yeah. I'm not going to let you affect me.
Absolutely.
I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. Yeah. But not only that review, but one of my podcasts opened up a can of worms and the drama started. But drama sells and the views are going up. So thank you very much. And so, but my whole point is, you putting your emotions out there, putting your book out there. Yes, you're going to have maybe some backlashes on it, but don't let that stop you. Especially you saying you're a writer. Let the world see it and read it. So can you tell me what it's about though?
Yeah. So Celebrate the Change is truly exactly what the title is. It is finding comfort and love within yourself through times of change. And it's not easy going through change. And a lot of people look at change as a negative thing, right? Because people would rather live in comfort than to push themselves to do something that they've never done, you know? So the book is really about what I've gone through from what I can remember in my childhood all the way up to adulthood today, because I'm still actually pouring into that book on my downtime. I still go in and I'm still writing things because my story is not finished. So it's about looking at the glass half full rather than the glass half empty, because I've been pretty pessimistic in my life. I like to look at the negative things so I can prepare myself for the negative things, so when it happens, it doesn't hurt me as much. And I realized that it's toxic. It's toxic energy, and I don't deserve that. I deserve to look at everything that I've been through and be like, wow, Deliza, if you never went through that, then this wouldn't have happened. If you didn't do this, then that person probably, wouldn't be able to talk about her issues or whatnot. So it's a book about how I managed to celebrate all of my changes in my life, and a lot of that had to do with, and I'm gonna get vulnerable here, and I'm gonna put it out there. It may be a trigger for some people who have dealt with SA, sexual assault, but it was how I managed to overcome that. I was assaulted as a child by someone that I loved, someone that I looked at like a brother. He was an older brother, and that captivated me for such a long time that I used it as an excuse to be rebellious. And I know that there's a lot of young girls out there who are struggling with being rebellious because, one, social media is just what it's doing to our youth, what it's doing to our young girls today. Is just like it's telling them, hey, you're not enough. You're not enough.
Yeah.
You got to look like this. You're 12. Well, you got to look like this. You got to, you got to do this. You got to do that. And I just feel like putting that part out there is very important because you can heal from that. There's healing in that, and you don't have to live in that forever. So that was a big part of wanting to start the book, because I had realized that in my first marriage, there were things that I was not okay with. I wasn't okay being touched. Don't touch me. Don't hug me. Don't kiss me in public. It would make me feel uncomfortable, but behind closed doors, I'm like, love me, touch me, hug me, kiss me. But that was just something that brought me back to those moments.
So are you afraid of putting that in, or it's in the book, but are you afraid for the world to know about this individual who actually did that to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The reason why I asked that is that a lot of the times the abusers are the ones to get protected.
Right.
Because it's something that I don't know what it is. I can't even explain why people protect the abusers.
I know.
We're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, because I know quite a few people, I was fortunate enough not to experience that, at least not that I can ever recall.
Right.
But I know quite a few people that have gone through that. And one of the main things that they've told me is that even if they came out and said it, no one was going to ever protect them from that person.
Yeah.
No one's going to ever believe them. So why even bother saying that? Is that what you feel too?
Well, thankfully, I didn't have people who didn't believe me. I had the support. My mom. Here we go.
There you go.
My mother did everything in her power to protect me from this happening to me. And sometimes the abusers are not abusers that don't know you. Sometimes they're very close to you. And she wasn't able to protect me from that because she didn't know. And so no, I had a group. My family was like, we're gonna get through this together. And my mom's like, my mom also went through so much childhood trauma, way more than I could ever fathom. When I hear my mom talk about her past, I'm like, Mom, how do you smile? It's difficult because I remember growing up and I was looking at my mom and I would be so angry with her about so much. But now that I'm a mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it. I get why you loved me the way you did. It didn't feel like love before. But now I see it because I look at my daughter and I'm like, baby girl, no, you can't sleep over your friend's house. Yeah. No, you cannot, do this. You cannot do that. And I know before I was like, God, you don't let me do nothing. There's nothing that I can do. Like, I can't have fun. I can't go to parties. I can't do this. I can't do that. But my mom was protecting me from a life that she had already lived, or went through. So my mom put me through. Guess too. Yeah.
My mom didn't allow me to sleep over anybody's house. I mean, I would sleep over my cousin's house. I think it's a Latina
thing too. They're like, do they got brothers? Do they have a dad that's in the house?
I'd be like, no, you can't. Even with my own uncles, and it's her brothers. Yeah. She would not allow. I think I probably a handful of times, and if I did, it was with my cousins or whoever else, or my brother with us or whatever. Yeah. But she was very. But she would do it. I see that she would do it in a protective way, but she also did it in, example, I would stand there. I loved watching my uncles play dominoes.
Yeah.
My mom was an awesome domino player too,
Yeah.
but mainly it's a male game
Right,
back in the
right.
day. Now there's more women playing or
Right,
whatever.
right.
But my uncles would sit and play this, and their
Mhm.
friends or whatever have their beers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I would love watching them. I would just stand there and watch
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
My mom would get so upset, and it was like the worst thing that I could ever do
Oh my
because I
gosh.
was around men.
Men. Yeah.
And I just didn't understand that. Like, I'm just
Mhm.
watching them play dominoes.
Right.
That's nowhere for a little girl to be at.
Right.
And I'm like, why? I'm just standing
Like,
there with
Mom, you're
my
tripping.
tios are there.
Right.
You know, like I'm just watching dominoes. So she would get so upset.
Yeah.
And it was like I robbed the bank or something of how bad it was for her.
Mhm.
But then I think about it, and my mom doesn't talk about anything that's happened in her past.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Right.
But I assume, like, did something happen to my mom that she
Mhm.
would turn into someone completely different
Yeah.
if I was in a room with men.
Yes. Yes.
And literally it would be, Chicago apartments are longer.
Yep.
So it'd be the living room, the dining room,
Mhm.
and then maybe hallway to go to the
Mhm.
kitchen.
Mhm.
That's how it was. So we
Yeah.
would probably be in the front room
Yeah.
and they're just a hallway down. Like
Right.
there's no closed doors or
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm. But still,
That
was enough.
Yeah.
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 I get it. Yeah. So she tried to protect me from that, and it still ended up happening. And I think for her, I think still today, my mom blames herself for that.
Mhm.
Even though I've forgiven this man who has done what he has done to me in the past, he didn't break me. He didn't break me emotionally forever, because now I'm able to talk to many women who have gone through this, and I'm like, listen, you're gonna get through it, and here's how you're gonna do that. So the book is really like a foundation of how I was able to get there, and a lot of it is untraditional.
Yeah.
I did a lot of untraditional things, but untraditional worked for me. So,
But untraditional in whose definition? Because I tell people
yeah,
one size doesn't fit all. So
yeah,
although someone wouldn't do it the way you did it, doesn't mean it's untraditional. It's just
yeah.
in your own terms.
I feel like untraditional for like the psychological notion of how you're supposed to get over trauma. Like you got to go through like years of therapy. You have to like go under like this psychosis sometimes to like.
Oh, they try to do that whole hypnotizing thing
Yeah.
too.
And for me, I was just like, that doesn't work for me.
It didn't work for me either.
Doesn't work for me. What did work for me is when I was a child, I was able to talk to a therapist. I never forget her name. Her name was Rachel. And it was the Children's Advocacy Center on Roosevelt in Chicago. And I remember walking in there, and there was just this big, beautiful saltwater fish tank in the middle, and there were pockets of seats like around, and it was a circular room, and I remember different families sitting with a child that had gone through something.
Mhm.
And I knew that I was in a place specifically for children, and so that made me feel really comfortable. And when I got into the room with her, it was very conversational. She didn't make it seem as if I even went through trauma or anything. She was just like a friend. And that was the first time that I identified with like opening up myself to talking to someone else. So I think that's why I've always been very comfortable talking about it to people. But putting it out there for other people to read that I don't know, it makes me very fearful. And I do know that there are people in my family who know this person, and a lot of them don't know the depth of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't even want to say I fear for retaliation, because I'm a child of God, and I'm a born again Christian. So for me, I've completely submitted myself and that to the Lord. So I know that I am protected in that space. So if he were to ever try to retaliate against me, first of all, I have Will. Okay, you got to get through him, and that man listened to me. Okay, like we'll just stop it right there. But I'm not fearful of like him hurting me, but I'm fearful of the attempt, and what that can do. I don't want Will to get involved. I don't want my dad to get involved. I don't want them to come and have to physically protect me from someone who is in the streets.
So why don't you just not say his name?
Well, it's kind of the same thing with like previously someone on your podcast, they didn't say any names, right? But when the shoe fits, sometimes it's still gonna ruffle feathers, and they're going to identify with it, and they're gonna put it out there, and that's what I am just fearful of. I know that this person is still heavy into gangbanging, and I know that he is still very much in the streets, and I don't want any part of that, because for me, I'm healed. I'm healed. But I don't want that to just conjure up anything. And now my family, like now everyone is having to deal with it. You
so
know what
for
I mean?
those listeners that don't know, we are from Chicago. I didn't know Deliza until I moved out here, but we are from Chicago. It's a very rough neighborhood.
Yes.
Gang banging is someone who is in the gang and they're out in the streets and they live the lifestyle of no fear, and they don't care if they have to go kick somebody's ass or shoot somebody. So we have to be vigilant with that and mindful with that, because we don't know how people are going to react.
Exactly.
They have the mentality of being in the hood.
Right.
So being in the hood brings on the I don't care mentality. And if you're going to tarnish how they look, they're going to come after you in a different way.
It's an image thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah.
I understand that 100%. And that's the reason why a lot of people stay quiet.
Yep.
Because of that fear.
Yep.
And I didn't, when I brought my book out, I did get the backlash, especially from my mom's brother.
Yeah.
And he came at me and was like, I'm going to protect my sister at all costs or whatever. I was like, read the book. It's not even all about your sister. Like, it's just about what I went through. And I didn't bash my mom. But at the same time, she's my mom. I came out of her hoo-ha.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So I had to endure it. And she almost killed me. She didn't almost kill you.
Right.
But he had the nerve to come out and say, oh, well, that's going through that shaped you to be the woman you are today. Okay, so you almost not had a niece, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, whatever, people are going to say whatever. The people are going to judge you for whatever happened. But I wouldn't want you to stay quiet or not put it out there because of the fear of that person. Like, honestly, people from the neighborhood, do they actually get on a plane and go somewhere? A lot of times, no.
No. They can't. Because they're probably on probation. They're probably on some type of...
like, haha. Come and get me if you want to. Like,
right. Catch me if you can.
Catch me if you can.
Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't want you to hold back from that, because that's, again, protecting him.
Yeah.
Protecting the abuser.
And you know what's so crazy? Talking about protecting the abuser, even after, so I was abused at 9. I didn't come out to tell anyone until I was 13 years old, because I had started to like live this rebellious lifestyle. And it wasn't even all that bad. Like when I hear how other people grew up, I was like, I was doing nothing. My mom was just so extra. But I was like, walking home from school one day, and I passed the house where I was abused. And I saw him, and he saw me. And what's so bizarre is I don't even think he recognized me.
Really?
No.
Is he a family member?
He is a family friend.
Okay.
And so he hadn't seen me since I was 9. Oh, wow. And now I'm in high school. So I'm older now.
So do you think he even remembers that he did this to you?
I'm sure he's packed it away in his little brain. I'm sure
or if he even has done it to other little girls.
Oh, no, he has.
Really?
Yes, he has. And one of those girls were actually my childhood friends that lived in the back of. So it's weird. So if you're from Chicago, you understand. But there's like houses that are like not supposed to be houses. So like you got the big house, and then you have like the garage in the back that's like supposed to be.
It's a coach house.
Yeah. So that's where she lived with her family. And I remember hanging out with her, and she just flat out told me one day, like, does he do this to you too? But she was so normalized to it that it wasn't even hurting her to talk about it. And I was like, he's been doing this to you for so long. And it's not even, it's normal. Like you've gone through so much pain and all this tragedy that you've normalized it. And that scared the bejesus out of me. I'm like, I cannot be this way. I don't ever want to normalize abuse. And it was at that moment where I was like, I'm going to do my best to stay so far away from this person. I was always at my aunt's house. I was always trying to get out of my house. So I just wasn't near this person. And then he ended up getting locked up for like possession of like firearms and like drugs and, you know, all this stuff that had nothing to do with me. So when he was locked up, I felt so safe. I'm like, oh, yes, he's not here. He's physically not here. He's not locked up away from what he did to me or anyone else, but he's away. So I felt good. So walking home from school that one day, I didn't know that he was out of prison. I saw him from a distance because I know that house and I lived right next to it. So I'm like, that's definitely him. He has one distinct characteristic that I won't say on here that you cannot unsee.
Now I'm curious because you grew up around the same neighborhood. How old are you?
I'm 31.
Oh, so you're much younger than me. So,
but you probably do know who he is. Person. Yep. But I knew that it was him, and I said, I have two options. I can cross the street and completely ignore it, or I can face him and just walk in the direction and see how that makes me feel. I don't know what it was, but I like had all of this like strength. I'm like, oh, you didn't break me, and I want you to see my face, and I want you to see that I'm still alive and I'm well, and I'm going to school and I'm getting an education and I'm in my uniform, and I'm gonna walk past you because you didn't
take anything from me.
You didn't win, and I did. And he was like, hey.
Like nothing.
And I looked and I said, hey. And he was like, you okay? He's like, you good? And I'm like, I'm good.
Was he on drugs back then or something?
Yeah.
You're not, so he probably doesn't even realize he did that to you.
I don't even think he recognized me. That's the thing. Like I was in uniform. Like I had a hat on. So like he probably couldn't even remember. This happened when I was 9. Yeah. I'm now like
he probably doesn't even remember he did that.
I'm not like a junior in high school.
He probably wouldn't even remember.
He was like cool, calm, and collective, like, hey, and I was like, just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So for me, my heart, oh my gosh, it was in my butt. Okay. Like I was so like, oh my gosh, my ears were red. And I just remember going home and my mom was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I saw him. And she was like, what? He's out of prison? My mom was angry. All I know is that my mom went upstairs and she closed the door, but I know she was on her phone. She was making phone calls. Because, like, my mom, I always, and I don't like to, like, identify with this, but, like, they always say, like, you can take someone out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the person.
Yes, I'm guilty of that.
Okay,
at times.
So my mom, no matter where she is, like, she's still very hood in some spaces. Yeah. So I know my mom was up there making phone calls to people of the opposite gang, like, he's out. It's time to take care of this now. On the street side. And I remember my mom coming out and I had to tell her, whatever you just did, please call them back and tell them that it's not going to happen because
you don't want that conscience on yourself.
I'm healed.
Yeah.
I'm healed from this. And I just saw my mom's eyes just bubble up with nothing but tears.
Yeah.
And she had nothing to say. She was just like,
yeah. Okay. So those of you that did not grow up in the hood, the hood mentality is we took care of it ourselves.
Yeah.
Why did we take care of ourselves? Because if we called the cops never really did anything.
They don't ever do anything. They're not even for us.
Yes. Now there's more Hispanics on the force, but back in the day there was not.
Yes.
So although we would call, and they were predominantly back in Chicago it was Irish, a lot of Irish and Italians,
and Polish. There was a lot of Polish
on the police force. So they really didn't care for Hispanic neighborhoods and Hispanics themselves. So there's like whatever, they will come out, take a report, and be like, whatever, that's on you. You figured out. So that's the reason why in our neighborhood we took care of it ourselves. And a lot of the mentality is still going on right now.
I think that's why the crime rate is so high in Chicago.
Yeah.
Because we've realized that we're not protected by those in uniform that are supposed to protect us.
Right. So we are of color, although we're very pale.
Right. Right. Once the sun hits this melanin, honey, I will get brown, not red.
I get red.
You get red.
So for anyone, because we're wrapping up and we're getting close, we're like, I didn't realize.
Oh my gosh, there's so much more to talk about.
And this has been going on with these shows. For anyone that has gone through what you have gone through, what advice can you give them? Because you have overcome this, have became a mom, have traveled the world and all of this stuff. What advice can you give someone that's have gone through it or is going through it right now?
Well, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're in schools they're telling girls not to wear tank tops because you can provoke a man. Like, how crazy does that sound? Yeah. How about we raise our boys to respect women and not force women to not wear or to have to wear something to not provoke a man? Mm-hmm. And that's still like that's
the mentality.
That's the mentality of a lot of people in government, people that have that platform. And it's not your fault, right? If you're walking down the street and you have on some tight jeans and your cleavage is out, you got your makeup and your hair done, that doesn't give anyone the right to catcall to you, to touch you inappropriately. It doesn't give anyone the right to have authority over your body. And it damn sure doesn't give anyone to have the right over your mind or your mental. So my word of advice is it is not your fault. It is not your fault. And stop putting that on yourself because you cannot control the actions of other people. But what you can control is how you accept the information or accept what has happened. And you can either, one, live with it forever and continue to live in this bondage, or you can celebrate the change, right? And you can come out of it victorious. So,
oh my God,
that's my advice.
Well, those were wise words because I couldn't share that. I mean, I can't relate into that aspect in life, but those are wise words and. Thank you for sharing that.
You're very welcome.
We're going to have to work on you releasing the book. I know we couldn't do it right now. Me saying, yes, you're going to put it out. But we're going to work on that.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing your insights and experiences. You're another guest that I have to come back. Of course. Because there's so much to talk about.
Oh my gosh, so much.
But I'm very grateful that you came on today so that you can share it with us. And to all my listeners, remember, subscribe, share, follow, rate, and review. The reviews are going to help me so I can bring on more guests and see what you guys are really wanting to hear. But I really do appreciate your love and support. And I am sorry that if I was chewing in your ear this time. I am very hungry. But till next time, thank you.
Yay.